The Galactic Council had watched humanity for 50 years. They sent hidden observers. They studied human wars, human science, human art. They read human books and watched human movies. They listened to human music and recorded human conversations. After all this watching and studying, they came to one simple conclusion. Humans were slow. Not stupid. The Council never said humans were stupid. In fact, humans were quite clever. They built impressive machines. They solved difficult problems. They created beautiful things. But they took so long to do anything. They talked and talked before acting. They made plans and then made plans for their plans. They built computer models to predict what might happen. They held meetings about meetings. They debated and argued and discussed until everyone was tired. The species of insect-like beings who shared one giant mind could make decisions in less than a second. The tall warriors with silver skin processed combat scenarios faster than light travels. The pale ones, ancient beings who looked like walking shadows, had not lost a single strategic battle in 800 years. Compared to these species, humans seemed almost frozen in time. So when the Council announced the 1,000-year tournament, nobody expected much from Earth. The tournament happened once every 1,000 years. The winner earned something precious, a permanent seat on the High Assembly. This seat meant real power. It meant having a voice in decisions that shaped the entire galaxy. Every species sent their best champion. They sent a hive mind cluster of their individuals. They sent their greatest warrior scholar. The pale ones sent an ancient strategist who had lived for 6,000 years. Earth sent. She was 23 years old. She had grown up in a busy port city in Korea. Her mother had died when she was young. Her father worked on fishing boats and was rarely home, had raised herself mostly. She sold street food from a small cart near the university. She never finished school. She never studied military strategy or galactic politics. She never learned advanced mathematics or computer programming. The selection process for Earth's champion was strange. A new artificial intelligence system had analyzed millions of humans. It looked for something nobody quite understood. The AI called it pattern recognition under chaos, whatever that meant. When the AI chose, the Earth Defense Council was shocked. "This must be a mistake," General Park said during the emergency meeting. "She sells from a cart. She has no training, no education, no experience." "The AI was very specific," Doctor replied. "She was the scientist who had built the selection system. It analyzed her brain patterns. It studied how she makes decisions. According to the data, she is exactly what we need. What we need is a strategist, a military genius, not a street vendor." But the AI would not change its choice. And time was running out. So Earth sent to represent all of humanity in the most important competition in galactic history. Her handler was a tired diplomat named. He was 45 years old, with gray hair and worried eyes. He had spent 20 years working with alien species. He knew how important this tournament was. He also knew they were going to lose badly. On the ship traveling to the tournament, tried to prepare. He showed her videos of past tournaments. He explained how each alien species thought and fought. He presented data about their strategies and weaknesses. "They share one mind," he said, pointing at the screen. "Millions of individuals thinking as one. They can calculate 10,000 possibilities in the time it takes you to blink. Watch the insect-like creatures on the screen. They look like the beetles that used to eat my grandmother's garden. Side, please pay attention. This is serious." "I am paying attention." "They are even faster. Their brains are partly mechanical. They process information like computers. In combat simulations, they have never been beaten by an organic species." On the screen, a tall silver alien destroyed an entire fleet in seconds. Its movements were precise and perfect. "And the pale ones," continued, "are the most dangerous of all. They have been playing strategic games since before humans existed. Their champion has lived for 6,000 years. 6,000 years of learning, planning, and winning. Watched for another 10 minutes, then her eyes started to close. "Are you falling asleep?" asked, his voice rising. "The fate of humanity rests on this tournament and you are falling asleep." "The ship is warm," said simply, "and I learn better when I sleep anyway." Left the room and sent a message back to Earth. "She is going to embarrass us," he wrote. "She has no interest in preparation. She has no respect for the competition. She is completely unprepared for what is coming." The response from Earth Command was short. "Just make sure she shows up." Did sleep. She slept for 12 hours straight. When she woke up, she wandered around the ship. She found the kitchen and made herself noodles. She found the observation deck and watched the stars passing by. She found a small maintenance robot and spent 2 hours trying to teach it to dance. When they finally arrived at the tournament station, found her sitting in a corner, folding paper into small shapes. "We arrive in 1 hour," he said. "Are you nervous?" Looked up at him, her eyes were calm and clear. "Should I be?" "Yes, you should be terrified. The other champions have prepared their entire lives for this moment. Some of them have prepared for centuries. You have prepared for nothing." Thought about this for a moment, then she shrugged. "My grandmother used to say something," she said. "She said that when you try too hard to catch a fish, the fish swims away. But when you are patient and calm, the fish comes to you." "This is not fishing. This is Galactic War strategy." "Maybe," said, "but fish and aliens both have eyes. They can see when you are trying too hard." Stared at her. He had worked with aliens for 20 years. He had met beings from 100 different worlds, but he had never met anyone quite like. "You are either the person I have ever met," he said slowly, "or the most foolish." Smiled. It was a small, quiet smile. "Probably both," she said. "My grandmother said that too." The ship began its descent toward the tournament station. Through the window could see it floating in space, a massive structure of glass and metal spinning slowly against the stars. 12 species, 12 champions, 1 prize. The fate of humanity rested on the shoulders of a girl who sold street food and could not stay awake during strategy briefings. Closed his eyes and prayed to whatever gods might be listening. He had a feeling they were going to need all the help they could get. The tournament station was the largest structure had ever seen. It floated at the edge of the galaxy, far from any sun or planet. Thousands of ships surrounded it like insects around a lamp. Inside, beings from 12 different worlds walked through halls made of crystal and light. Stepped off her ship and looked around with wide eyes. She saw creatures with tentacles and creatures with wings. She saw beings made of pure energy and beings made of living stone. She saw them moving in perfect groups, their insect bodies clicking and buzzing as they shared thoughts. She saw the standing tall and proud, their silver skin shining under the station lights. And she saw the pale ones. They moved like shadows, their bodies dark and flowing. When looked directly at them, they seemed to disappear at the edges, like smoke being blown by wind. "Stop staring," whispered. "It is rude." "They are beautiful," said, "all of them, so different from each other." Pulled her arm gently. "Come, we must register for the tournament." The registration hall was filled with champions and their teams. Each species had brought advisors, scientists, and military experts. The team had 37 members, all thinking as one mind. The team had 12 warrior scholars, each one an expert in different types of combat. The pale ones had brought only 3 beings, but those 3 had more experience than most civilizations. The human team had and that was all. "Just 2 of you?" the registration official asked. It was a small creature with too many eyes. "Are you sure?" "We are sure," said, trying to sound confident. "Very well. The opening ceremony begins in 3 hours. Please prepare your champion." As they walked to their assigned room, other teams watched them. Could feel their eyes on her back. She heard whispers in languages she did not understand. "They are talking about us," said quietly. "They think we are a joke." "Maybe we are," said. "Jokes can be funny." The first challenge was announced that evening. It was a resource allocation puzzle. Each champion would manage a simulated colony facing 7 different crises at the same time. There were not enough resources to solve all 7 problems. The champion had to decide what to save and what to sacrifice. "This is exactly what I warned you about," said, showing the challenge details. "You need to calculate the optimal distribution of resources. You need to predict which crises will get worse and which will improve. You need to understand supply chains and population dynamics and was looking out the window at the stars. "Are you listening?" "The stars here are different," she said. "Back home, I knew all the stars by name. Here, I do not know any of them." "Please, this is important." She turned to face him. "I know it is important, but I cannot learn all of this in 3 hours, so I will not try." "Then what will you do?" She thought for a moment. "I will do what feels right." The challenge began at midnight station time. All 12 champions sat in separate rooms, each facing a holographic display of their colony. The clock started. The champion solved the puzzle in 4.2 seconds. Its hive mind processed millions of calculations in the time it took to breathe. The answer was mathematically perfect. The champion took 6.1 seconds. Its solution was slightly less efficient but still impressive. The Pale 1 champion took 11.3 seconds. It had considered not just the immediate crisis, but the long-term effects of each decision for the next 100 years. Stared at her display. The clock ticked, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. In the observation room, wanted to scream. Other teams were laughing. The champion shook its silver head in disappointment. "The human has frozen," someone said. "Too much information for a slow thinker to process." 3 minutes, 4 minutes. The time limit was 5 minutes. After that, the colony would fail automatically. At 4 minutes and 47 seconds, moved her hand. She did not tap multiple buttons. She did not carefully adjust resource flows. She made one single gesture, dragging a simple line across the display. The colony stabilized, not just stabilized, thrived. The final scores appeared on the main screen. Colony had the highest population survival rate of all 12 champions, higher than the Pale ones. The room went silent. "Explain your methodology," the judge asked through the communication system. She thought about it for a long moment. "It felt right," she said. The other champions did not accept this answer. They demanded a review. They asked for her brain to be scanned for hidden technology. They checked her display for computer assistance. They found nothing. Was exactly what she appeared to be, an ordinary human with no special equipment. "Luck," the champion said loudly. "Nothing but luck. She will fail in the next challenge." But did not fail in the next challenge. It was a negotiation puzzle, requiring champions to make deals with simulated alien traders. Smiled at the holograms, asked about their families, and somehow ended up with the best trade agreements of anyone. She did not fail in the third challenge either. It was a defensive scenario, requiring champions to protect a space station from attack. Positioned her ships in a pattern that made no logical sense. But when the attack came, her ships were exactly where they needed to be. 4 challenges, 5 challenges, 6 challenges. Kept winning. Between challenges, she did not study or prepare. She wandered the station's gardens, touching strange plants and smelling alien flowers. She found the maintenance drones that cleaned the hallways and spent hours talking to them. She asked a delegate if their hive mind ever felt lonely. "Lonely?" they asked, confused. "We are never alone, we are always together." "That sounds nice," said, "but also a little sad. You never have your own thoughts." They had no answer to this. Other champions began watching more carefully. They studied her movements. They analyzed her decisions. They tried to find patterns in her choices. They found nothing. Her decisions seemed random, but somehow the random decisions always worked. "She is cheating," the Pale One ambassador said in an emergency council meeting. "There is no other explanation. No organic being can make decisions this quickly and accurately without technological assistance." They scanned again, 7 times in total. They found nothing unusual. Her brain was perfectly ordinary. Her body had no modifications. She was just a young woman who had sold street food in. "Maybe," one council member suggested quietly, "we have been wrong about humans all along." Nobody wanted to believe this. But as the tournament continued and kept winning, it became harder and harder to deny. Something strange was happening, something that the greatest minds in the galaxy could not explain. A simple girl with no training was defeating champions who had prepared for centuries. And she was doing it without thinking at all. The Pale Ones had not lost a strategic competition in 800 years. 800 years of victories. 800 years of proving they were the greatest strategic minds in the galaxy. Their champion was ancient. He had been alive since before humans discovered fire. He had studied every form of warfare, every type of game, every kind of puzzle. He had defeated thousands of opponents from hundreds of worlds. He lost 2 in 11 minutes. The challenge was naval warfare. Each champion controlled a fleet of ships in a simulated battle. The Pale One moved his ships with perfect precision. Every movement was calculated. Every attack was planned 1,000 steps ahead. His fleet formed patterns that had taken centuries to develop. His fleet looked like chaos. Her ships moved without any clear pattern. Some went left when they should have gone right. Some stopped when they should have moved. Some flew in circles for no apparent reason. The Pale One smiled. This would be easy. But as the battle continued, something strange happened. His perfect patterns began to fall apart. Every time he attacked, his chaotic ships somehow moved out of the way. Every time he defended, her ships appeared exactly where he was weakest. At the 8-minute mark, his flagship was surrounded. He did not know how it had happened. His formation had been perfect, but somehow his random-looking movements had created a trap he never saw coming. At 11 minutes, his fleet was destroyed. The Pale One sat in silence for a long time after the defeat. His dark body flickered at the edges like a dying flame. "How did she know?" he asked quietly. "How did she know where I would move before I moved?" No one had an answer. The council assigned a team to study. The lead scientist was a human woman named. She was someone who studied alien life. But now she was studying her own species, trying to understand how a street vendor was defeating the greatest minds in the galaxy. Followed for 3 days. She watched everything did. She recorded every conversation. She analyzed every decision. On the 3rd night, she finally asked directly, "Can we talk?" Was eating instant noodles. She had somehow found a supply of on the station and was heating water in her room. "Of course. Would you like some?" Sat down across from her. "I have been watching you for 3 days. I know, you are not very good at hiding." Laughed, "I suppose not. I have a question for you." "Ask." "You are not thinking, are you? When you make your decisions in the challenges, you are not actually analyzing the situation. You are not calculating possibilities. You are doing something else." Slurped her noodles. She took her time chewing and swallowing. "Thinking slows me down," she said finally. "What do you mean?" "When I was young, I used to catch fish with my hands. Not with a net or a rod, just my hands. My father thought I was crazy. He said it was impossible to catch fish with your hands. Fish are too fast, too smart." "But you could do it." "Yes, because I did not think about it. If I thought about where the fish would swim, I was always wrong. The fish is faster than my thoughts, but if I just reached into the water without thinking, my hands knew where to go." Leaned forward. So when you compete in the challenges, you are not analyzing the situation. You are just acting on instinct. I do not know what instinct means, said. I just do what feels right, like catching fish, like knowing when rain is coming before the clouds form, like knowing someone is looking at you before you turn around. But how do you know these things? Shrugged, I do not know, I just know. Spent the next 2 days writing her report. It was the most important document of her career. She revised it 18 times before sending it to the council. The report began with a simple observation. Humans have 2 brains. Not literally 2 brains, but 2 ways of thinking. The first way is conscious thought. This is what most people consider thinking. You see a problem, you analyze it, you calculate possible solutions, you choose the best one. This type of thinking is slow. It takes time. It requires effort. The second way is unconscious processing. This happens without awareness. The brain takes in information from the environment and makes decisions before the conscious mind even knows there is a decision to make. This is how a baseball player catches a ball. This is how a driver avoids an accident. This is how a mother knows her child is sick before any symptoms appear. Most humans, wrote, are trained from childhood to rely on conscious thought. Schools teach analysis. Universities teach calculation. Society rewards people who can explain their reasoning step by step. But some humans never receive this training. Some humans grow up trusting their unconscious processing. They never learn to override their instincts with analysis. They never learn to slow down and think. Was one of these humans. Her conscious mind was ordinary, average intelligence, average memory, average calculation speed, but her unconscious processing was extraordinary. Her brain absorbed information from the environment at incredible speeds. It detected patterns that no conscious analysis could find. It made predictions that no computer could calculate. And because she had never learned to think consciously, she never slowed down to analyze. She just acted. The pale ones have 800 years of strategic experience, concluded in her report. But they process information consciously. Every decision is analyzed. Every move is calculated. This makes them very good. But it also makes them predictable. Is not predictable because she is not thinking. She is responding to patterns that exist below the level of conscious awareness. She sees things that the pale ones cannot see because they are too busy thinking. The council read the report with great interest, but the champion laughed out loud. So the human's secret weapon is ignorance, he said. She wins because she is too uneducated to think properly. This is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. He demanded a match against. The council agreed. The challenge would be a one-on-one combat simulation. No fleets, no resources, just 2 champions, each controlling a single warrior in a fighting arena. The champion had trained in combat for 400 years. His reflexes were enhanced by machinery implanted in his brain. He could process attack patterns in microseconds. He had never lost a single combat simulation. The match lasted 11 seconds. The warrior moved before they could react. It was not a complicated attack. It was not a clever strategy. It was just a simple strike to a weak point that this analysis had not considered. The champion sat frozen in his chair, staring at the screen that showed his defeated warrior. Impossible, he whispered. I calculated every possible attack, every possible defense. There was no weakness in my position. But there was a weakness, a tiny gap in his defense that appeared for less than 1/10 of a second, a gap that no conscious analysis could detect. Had seen it anyway. She had seen it because she was not looking for it. She was not analyzing. She was not calculating. She was just moving, following patterns that her conscious mind could not even name. After the match, the champion walked up too. His silver face was unreadable. You have taught me something today, he said. I thought speed was everything. I thought faster processing meant better decisions. but you have shown me that the fastest process is no process at all. Tilted her head. I am sorry I beat you. Do not be sorry, be proud. You have defeated an opponent who thought himself unbeatable. That is an achievement worth celebrating. He bowed to her, a gesture of deep respect among his people. Bowed back, and somewhere in the observation room, finally allowed himself to hope. Maybe they would not embarrass humanity after all. Maybe, just maybe, they had a chance to win. 10 champions had fallen, only 2 remained. And 2 humans in the final round. For the first time in the history of the 1,000-year tournament, competitors from the same species would face each other for the ultimate prize. Everything was not. He had graduated from 3 military academies with the highest honors. He had advised generals and presidents. He had written books that were required reading in military schools across 12 star systems. His book, Principles of Galactic Warfare, had been translated into 47 languages. He was tall and handsome, with sharp eyes and a confident smile. When he walked into a room, people stopped talking. When he spoke, people listened. He was the champion that Earth had wanted to send in the first place. This is fitting, the council speaker announced. Human analysis versus human instinct. The thinking mind versus the feeling mind. 2 sides of the same species competing for the highest prize. The final challenge was unlike anything the tournament had seen before. It was not a simulation. It was real. Each champion would command a small fleet of actual ships. These ships would defend a space station filled with actual people. The attackers would be real too. A swarm intelligence, a cloud of billions of tiny machines that thought as one mind and learned from every encounter. If a champion failed to protect their station, the people inside would be in genuine danger. They were volunteers who had agreed to participate, but the risk was still real. This is madness, said when he heard the rules. They are putting lives at risk. The council believes true strategy can only be tested with true stakes, explained. They have done this before. The swarm has never actually harmed anyone. It always stops before causing real damage. But the champions do not know when it will stop, so they must fight as if every second matters. The preparation period was 1 hour, spent every minute studying data about the swarm. He analyzed recordings of its past attacks. He calculated its learning patterns. He designed a defense strategy with 17 layers of protection. Spent the hour in the station's garden. She found a small pond filled with alien fish. They were blue and silver, with fins that sparkled like jewels. She sat beside the pond and watched them swim. You should be preparing, said, finding her there. I am preparing. You are watching fish. The fish are teaching me. Sat down beside her. He had stopped questioning her methods weeks ago. What are they teaching you? They swim together without talking. They turn at the same moment without planning. How do they know where to go? They sense each other's movements. It is instinct. Yes, but they do not think about it. They just move together. If one fish tried to think about where to swim, it would crash into the others. The preparation hour ended. Both champions took their positions in separate command centers. Their fleets appeared on the main display. Ships formed a perfect defensive formation around his station. Ships drifted in loose clusters, seemingly random. The swarm emerged from deep space. It looked like a cloud of dust at first, but the dust was alive. Billions of tiny machines, each one smaller than a grain of sand, but together forming a mind of incredible power. His defense was brilliant. His ships moved with perfect coordination. His weapons fired at optimal intervals. His shields rotated to block attacks from every angle. For 11 minutes, not a single swarm unit reached his station. But the swarm was learning. It watched his patterns. It recorded his timing. It analyzed his formations, and slowly it began to find weaknesses. At the 12-minute mark, swarm units began slipping through his defense, just a few at first, then more, then hundreds. Adapted, he changed his formations. He adjusted his timing. But every time he adapted, the swarm learned his new pattern. It was always one step behind him, but it was getting faster. At the 15-minute mark, his outer defense collapsed. In the observation room, Earth's military leaders watched in horror. Was the best strategic mind humanity had ever produced. If he could not defeat the swarm, no one could. "Look at's display," said quietly. Everyone turned to look. His fleet had not moved. Her ships still drifted in loose, random clusters. The swarm had not even attacked her yet. It was focused entirely on. "What is she doing?" General Park demanded. "Why is she not fighting?" "She is waiting," said. "For what?" Shook her head. "I do not know, something we cannot see." His inner defense fell at the 18-minute mark. The swarm was learning too fast. Every strategy he used became useless within seconds. His mathematical mind could not adapt quickly enough. "I am sorry," he said through the communication system. "I have failed." The swarm finished with station. It did not harm anyone inside. That was not its purpose, but had lost. Now the swarm turned toward. It moved like a wave across space. Billions of units all thinking together, all learning from their victory over. They had analyzed human strategy. They knew human patterns. They were ready. Ships still drifted randomly. "Move," shouted at his screen. "Do something." But did not move. She sat in her command chair, her eyes half closed, her breathing slow and steady. She looked almost asleep. The swarm reached her outer ships. It prepared to attack. And then moved. Her hands danced across the control panel. Not fast, not slow, just smooth like water flowing downhill. Her ships began to move. To the observers, it looked like pure chaos. Ships flying in every direction. No formation, no pattern, no logic. But the swarm stopped. For the first time in its existence, the swarm intelligence hesitated. It could not analyze movements. There was no pattern to learn. There was no strategy to counter. Her ships moved without reason, without plan, without thought. The swarm tried to attack anyway. It sent waves of units toward her ships. But somehow the ships were never where the swarm expected them to be. Every attack hit empty space. Every trap caught nothing. And slowly, impossibly, chaotic movements began to surround the swarm. The swarm tried to escape. It calculated the optimal retreat path. Ships were already there, waiting. It calculated another path. Ships blocked that too. It calculated 1,000 paths. Every single one was blocked. The swarm intelligence did something it had never done in 400 simulations. It sent a signal of surrender. It retreated, pulling back its billions of units into deep space. Had won. The observation room exploded with noise. Earth's delegation was screaming and hugging. Alien observers were buzzing and clicking in confusion. The council speaker called for order, but no one listened. In her command center, opened her eyes fully. She looked at the display showing the retreating swarm. "Thank you for playing with me," she said softly. Later, after the celebration, found in the garden, she was feeding the blue fish with crumbs from her dinner. "How did you do it?" he asked. "I have studied strategy my entire life. I know more about warfare than almost any human alive, and you defeated an enemy that defeated me without any strategy at all." "Thought about this for a long time. When I was young," she said, "I was afraid of the dark, so my grandmother would sit with me until I fell asleep. One night I asked her how to stop being afraid. She said that fear comes from thinking about what might happen, but if you stop thinking and just feel the darkness, you realize it is just quiet and peaceful." "I do not understand." "The swarm learned your patterns because you were thinking. You were planning. You were calculating. Every thought created a pattern for it to learn, but I was not thinking. I was just moving, like the fish, like the darkness. There was nothing for the swarm to learn. Sat down beside her. He looked at the fish swimming in circles. You know, he said slowly, I spent my whole life believing that thinking was the highest form of intelligence, that the person who could analyze the most, calculate the fastest, plan the furthest was but you have shown me that there is another kind of intelligence, one that does not think at all. Both kinds are useful, said. You are very smart, your thinking helps many people. But your not thinking defeated me. Maybe next time we can work together, your thinking and my not thinking. Together we might be very strong. Smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had allowed himself in years. I would like that, he said. The blue fish swam in circles beneath them, moving together without planning, turning without thinking, beautiful in their perfect unconscious harmony. Tomorrow would receive her prize. Tomorrow, humanity would earn its seat on the Galactic Council. But tonight, she just wanted to watch the fish. The ceremony took place in the Grand Hall of the Council. It was the largest room on the station, with walls of crystal that showed the stars in every direction. 12,000 beings attended in person. Billions more watched through broadcasts that reached every corner of the galaxy. Stood on a platform in the center of the hall. She wore a simple white dress that had chosen for her. She had wanted to wear her usual clothes, the comfortable pants and loose shirt she had worn every day since arriving at the station, but had insisted that this moment required something special. The council speaker floated toward her. He was an ancient being made of pure light, his form shifting and changing like flames in wind. On behalf of the Galactic Council, he said, his voice echoing through the hall, I grant humanity a permanent seat on the High Assembly. From this day forward, your species will have a voice in the decisions that shape our galaxy. The hall erupted in applause, bowed her head and said thank you. She did not know what else to say. After the applause faded, the speaker continued. But more than a prize, you have given us something valuable. You have given us a question, a mystery. For centuries, we believed we understood human nature. We watched your species grow. We studied your wars and your art. We thought you were clever but slow, intelligent but burdened by your need to think about everything. He paused, his light flickering gently. We were wrong. You have shown us that humans operate on levels we cannot detect. Your champion did not defeat the greatest minds in the galaxy through analysis or calculation. She defeated them by accessing something deeper, something faster, something we do not yet understand. The council speaker turned to address the entire hall. The Galactic Council requests permission to study human decision-making, not the conscious kind we dismissed for so long, but the deeper layer, the instinct, the gut feeling, whatever you call it, we wish to learn. Looked out at the crowd. Thousands of alien faces looked back at her, beings who had traveled across the galaxy to see this moment, beings who had conquered stars and built empires and lived for millions of years. And they were asking her to teach them. I am supposed to give a speech, she said. Her voice was quiet, but the hall's technology carried it to every ear. Wrote something very nice for me to say. It talks about the future of humanity and cooperation between species and the importance of this moment in history. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. But I do not think I will read it. Put his hand over his face, laughed softly. I am not a smart person, continued. I never finished school. I cannot calculate complicated mathematics. I do not know the names of stars or the history of empires. For most of my life, I sold food from a cart on a street corner. That was my world. That was all I knew. She looked down at her hands. But my grandmother taught me something. She taught me that thinking too much makes you miss what is right in front of you. When I was young, I asked her how she always knew the right thing to do. She said she did not know. She just felt it. Like knowing the rain is coming before the clouds appear. like knowing someone is watching you before you turn around. Looked up at the council speaker. I do not really understand what I do. I cannot explain it. I cannot teach it. I just stop thinking and my body knows where to go. It sounds stupid when I say it out loud. Maybe it is stupid, but it works. She paused, remembering something. Also, your maintenance drones are lonely. Someone should talk to them more. They work very hard keeping this station clean, and nobody ever says thank you. A long silence followed. Then, somewhere in the crowd, someone started clapping. Others joined in. Soon the entire hall was filled with applause and strange alien sounds of approval. After the ceremony, the council members approached one by one. Each offered their congratulations in their own way. They shared a thought of respect directly into her mind. The champion bowed deeply. The pale one who had lost to her said nothing, but his shadowy form seemed to smile. The council speaker was the last to approach. You spoke of your grandmother, he said. She sounds wise. She was a simple woman. She sold fish at the market. She never traveled more than 50 kilometers from her home, but she understood things that I am still learning. Perhaps that is the secret, the speaker said. Perhaps wisdom comes not from traveling far and learning much, but from staying still and paying attention. In the months that followed, finished her research paper. It became the most widely read scientific document in galactic history. The conclusion was translated into every known language. She wrote that human cognition operates on at least 2 different levels. The first level is conscious analysis. This is what most species consider thinking. It is slow, careful, and logical. The second level is unconscious pattern recognition. It processes environmental data at speeds that rival the fastest computers in existence. Most humans are trained from childhood to suppress this second level. They are taught to think consciously about everything. But when a human trusts the deeper layer, when they stop trying to think and just act, they become something remarkable. They become beings who know without knowing, wrote, who act without deciding, who win without trying. The galaxy called this instinct. Humans call it a gut feeling. Our champion called it obvious. Whatever the name, it represents a form of intelligence we had never considered. Not the intelligence of calculation, but the intelligence of connection. Not the intelligence of thinking, but the intelligence of being. Her final recommendation was simple. Do not underestimate a human who stops trying to be smart. The paper changed how the galaxy viewed humanity. Scientists from every species came to Earth to study human cognition. They wanted to understand how the second level worked. They wanted to learn if it could be taught. Most of them failed. They tried to analyze the unconscious, which was exactly the wrong approach. You cannot think your way to not thinking. You cannot calculate your way to instinct. But some learned. Some visitors sat with in her grandmother's old house inn. They watched her catch fish with her hands in the cold morning water. They listened to her stories about rain and stars and the feeling of being watched. And slowly, over months and years, some of them began to understand. It was not about intelligence, it was about trust. Trust that the body knows things the mind cannot see. Trust that patterns exist below the level of conscious awareness. Trust that sometimes the best decision is made without deciding at all. Never became famous in the traditional sense. She refused interviews and declined awards. She returned to as soon as the tournament ended. She reopened her grandmother's old food cart. She sold and Sunday to students and workers just like she had before. But sometimes aliens would visit her cart. They would order food they did not know how to eat. They would sit on plastic chairs and watch her cook. And they would ask her questions about decision-making and instinct and the nature of intelligence. Would always give the same answer. Stop thinking so hard, she would say. Just eat your food while it is hot. And somehow, that was the advice they had ever received. Years later, when historians wrote about the 1,000-year tournament, they focused on the strategies and the battles. They analyzed victories and tried to explain how she had won. They wrote books filled with diagrams and calculations. But they missed the point. Had not won because she was smarter than her opponents. She had not won because she had a secret technique or a hidden advantage. She had won because she had never learned that she was supposed to lose. She had never been taught that thinking was the only way to solve problems. She had never been told that analysis was superior to instinct. She had just been a girl who caught fish with her hands and knew when the rain was coming. And sometimes that was enough to defeat empires. The galaxy had spent millions of years developing faster computers and better calculations. They had built minds that could process information at the speed of light. They had created intelligences that could analyze every possibility in the blink of an eye. But a girl had beaten them all without thinking at all. Maybe that was the most human thing of all. Not the ability to think, but the courage to trust. Not the power of analysis, but the wisdom of instinct. Not the pride of knowing, but the peace of simply being. Served her last customer of the day and began cleaning her cart. The sun was setting over harbor, painting the water in shades of orange and gold. She could smell the salt in the air and hear the distant calls of seabirds. Tomorrow she would do the same thing again, and the day after, and the day after that. Not because she had to, but because it felt right. And for that had always been enough.